Last weekend, when we reviewed round 6, we thought that the championship was maybe starting to take shape, with a lot of the big favourites starting to make their move. Will they keep that going this weekend? So starting off with our predictions of round 7 on Friday night, it's down to home park as Plymouth host Luton. And this is interesting because it's two teams who I think have turned a corner since their relative poor starts to the season. Both are gradually improving. Plymouth, I think there are signs, despite not getting the result last week against West Brom and games prior, that they are starting to improve under Wayne Rooney. They're becoming more competitive in games, and I think you've always got to fancy them at home park to get something, especially when it's under the lights. And Luton themselves have turned their poor start around with 2 good wins in a row, especially coming from behind against Sheffield Wednesday. But they did go behind in that game, and as I say, an away trip down to Plymouth is a tough one for any team. So as much as Luton have certainly turned a corner, probably more than Plymouth, I reckon Plymouth will come away with something from this one. I'm going to go Plymouth 1, Luton 1. On to Saturday then, and one of them annoying 12:30 kickoffs, Blackburn host QPR. Now, I wouldn't say Blackburn's fast start has simmered at all, but I have a feeling they'll get back on track here. I just feel like back at Ewood Park against QPR, who are picking up points quite consistently, they're quite solid. I just have a feeling Blackburn will get goals here, and they'll maybe get over the 0-0 and the frustration of that game last week against Preston. So I don't think there'll be much in this game, but I just fancy Blackburn to edge it, and for that reason I think their home advantage will get them through, and I'm going to go with a narrow Blackburn win. Blackburn 2, QPR 1. Derby Norwich is another really intriguing game because Derby are, like Oxford, a team who win every home game and have lost every away game. So naturally, you would think that would be a huge argument for a Derby win. However, Norwich are starting to come good, and I think the performance against Watford last week will give them the biggest injection of confidence they could ask for. 4 goals last week, all taken really well. I think they'll come to Derby and they will be the first team this season to get something from Pride Park, and I think they'll take all 3. I don't think it'll be easy. I think Derby will put them up with a really, really tough game, but I just feel like Norwich have just clicked a little bit and they'll be going into this with so much confidence, and for that reason I'm backing them to come out on the winning side. Just Derby 1, Norwich 2. Then we head to Hillsborough as Sheffield Wednesday host high-flying West Brom, who just keep on finding ways to win. And I will grant Sheffield Wednesday, they've certainly weathered the storm of their poor start to the season. They've certainly got themselves, stabilising a little bit, albeit they're still not firing on all cylinders, I would say. But West Brom are just a solid outfit from top to bottom. I don't think Sheffield Wednesday look like a goal-scoring machine right now, and they're probably coming up against one of the most stubborn defences in the league. So for that reason, I'm predicting West Brom to continue their fantastic start to the season, but I think like any away game in the Championship, it will not be easy, but West Brom will get another win, and you know what? It's probably going to be Josh Maja again. So I'm going to go with West Brom to take all 3 points back to the Hawthorns. I'm going with Sheffield Wednesday 0, West Brom 1. Hull Cardiff is a very interesting one too, because Cardiff, of course, managerless at the moment, and I know it's an old cliche, but you always fancy to play a team when they are managerless. But, sometimes the caretaker can come in and stake a claim and do really well. Other times, it can be a team completely in a bit of a shambles, in a bit of a mess, in flux, not knowing what's going to come next. And to be fair, Hull, despite them being far from convincing this season, they've come off the back of a very good win away to Stoke. So they'll at least have some confidence and some wind in their sails, whereas Cardiff have none whatsoever. In fact, they're a ship that's pretty much just capsized and they're trying to empty the water overboard to get themselves back afloat again. So for me, I think this is a good time, pardon the cliche, for Hull to play Cardiff. I feel like it's a little bit too early to see a turnaround for them until they get their new manager in. So I'm going to go with a Hull win here. Hull 2, Cardiff 0. Leeds Coventry is an exciting game regardless of Coventry's indifferent start, and Leeds being pretty solid to good, I would say, thus far, still with gears to go to. But for me, I've just got a sneaky feeling about Coventry, and that even though they've had a poor start, I feel like the tougher the opponent, the more it will benefit them, the more they'll be challenged, the more they'll perform. And I feel like playing a team like Leeds, they will raise their game, and I feel like they'll go to Ellen Road and they will give Leeds a fantastic challenge. Now, I'm not going to back Coventry to win here because that would be silly given their start to the season and how good Leeds have been, and Ellen Road being the fortress it usually is, I will say. But I think this is going to be a game with goals. I really, really do. I think both sides will attack one another. I can see Coventry having joy, but I can see Leeds having joy too. And I feel like they will just edge it just down to maybe confidence and quality and home advantage. But I think it's going to be a cracker. And I'd be disappointed if it's not. So I'm going to go Leeds 3, Coventry 2. To the other side then, and Boro host Stoke City. I have done a Project Boro preview show, as always, previewing this, I should say, in much more detail. And I gave my prediction there. I'll give you my prediction now. But as a brief sort of overview with my thoughts, this for me is going to be another case of Boro playing a side at home who they should win against, another side at home who will probably have more possession than and will probably dominate the game and dominate territory. But it's that age-old question with Boro this season. Will we convert it into goals and convert them goals into points? And I've just not seen enough evidence of it as yet. And I think at least at the start of the season, we were creating a lot and knocking out 30 shots here, 29 shots there, and just not being clinical. Now we're not creating much at all, and we're playing extremely slowly, very predictable. And I think a lot of oppositions, or an opposition manager with half a brain cell, would probably work this Boro team out. The only advantage we might have is that Narcis Palash is coming in, and he might not have as much knowledge on Boro as other managers might, but I still think he'll have enough to just follow the same template that so many teams and managers have had joy with this season when it comes to taking points off Boro, and possibly just him having his first real week on the training ground with Stoke and maybe coming to the Riverside and throwing up a few surprises with his tactics and maybe a change of formation. We don't know what to expect. It could throw off Boro as well. So there's no evidence to suggest, and I've got no confidence and nothing to back up a Boro win here, so that's why I'm going to go with a draw, and I'm going to go with Boro 1, Stoke 1. To the Den, and Millwall play Preston, a Preston side who are certainly heading in the right direction under Paul Heckingbottom. I feel like they're becoming a side that are slightly harder to beat than what they were previously. I think they're stopping the goals going in at the other end, and Millwall, albeit are a side this season who have scored plenty and have been a good attacking side going forward. I feel like Preston will go there, and a bit like what they did at Boro, they'll stifle Millwall, they'll make the game difficult, and I feel like they will come away with something. So I am going to go right down the middle. I'm going to match what I said about Boro and Stoke, and I'm going to say this one will finish Millwall 1, Preston 1. To the Kazam, where Oxford, of course, have that 100% record, and maybe they have one of their toughest tests yet as Burnley come to town. Now, once again, is there much argument against Oxford winning here once again? I mean, maybe there isn't. Burnley are a very, very unpredictable side and a very intriguing side this season because they don't flatter to deceive. When you look at their statistics and you look at their numbers, they do not look like a top team. They look like a good team, but they don't look like a top team. But as is the way with Scott Parker and his sides, they've always just found ways to win. So I don't think you can count out Burnley regardless of form or data or stats or whatever. For that reason, I can't back them to not lose here. I don't think they'll get beat by Oxford. I think as good as Oxford have been, they won't win this game, but I don't think they'll lose it either. I think there'll be goals. I think Oxford have been very good going forward at home this season. They'll get a few goals, but I feel like Burnley will drop one of them performances where they have 3 shots on target, an XG of 0.4, and they score twice. I can see it now. So I'm going to go with a entertaining score draw at the Kazam. I'm going to go Oxford 2, Burnley 2. To Pompey, and they host Sheffield United in what they will be delighted to see, and here is the last of their hellish start. After this, they can breathe a little easier as the fixtures finally ease up. Thank God for Pompey. But coming to town are a Sheffield United side who have been brilliant this season so far. They are just solid. They're solid, they're consistent, they're quality, both forwards and backwards. They're just very, very efficient. And I'm gonna... It's the most predictable prediction ever on my channel at this point. I've even dubbed it the Sheffield United score, but I went for it last week. It didn't come off. It almost did. I went for it the week before, and it did come off against Hull, I think. I'm going to go with the age-old Sheffield United score of a solid win, which is comfortable enough, clean sheet in hand, Pompey 0, Sheffield United 2. The final game on Saturday is down at Vicarage Road. Watford host Sunderland, and once upon a time, a few weeks ago, this was looking like a top of the table clash against two very, very informed teams. However, Sunderland have maintained a very good start following that loss to Plymouth, whereas Watford have started to drop off and regress a little bit, and they've started to concede a few goals as well. So as much as both teams are still up there, I think there is clearly a difference between the two. I think they're starting to maybe go in opposite directions, and I've got no other reason to not back Sunderland to pick up another win here on the road. They seem pretty good on the road. They seem set up to be really, really effective on the road too. I saw that against Boro last week, albeit when they were at home. In the transition on the counter, they were very, very dangerous. So I think they'll be a great away side, and I feel like they'll back that up again with a win down at Watford. I'm going to go Watford 1, Sunderland 2. And finally, on Sunday, it's a derby of sorts. I don't know what they call this one. I know of Swansea Cardiff. I know of Cardiff Bristol City. I am not clued up on Swansea. Bristol City, I don't know how fierce this derby is. I don't know what it ranks and how it is in terms of Swansea and Cardiff. I mean, it's obviously nothing on Swansea Cardiff, but Cardiff Bristol City, no idea, but they've put it on telly anyway, so there must be something to this one. Yeah, Bristol City back on track last week against Oxford at home, but let's not forget their last two away trips have resulted in 3-0 defeats both times, and Swansea, in fairness, are looking decent. They're looking decent. I had them as a mediocre mid-table team, but they're looking a tad better than that, without being oh wow, they're going to be in the playoffs sort of contender. I think they're looking a little bit better than maybe I thought they would, and I always have a good feeling about them when they're at home. So that paired with Bristol City's shocking away form of late, I'm predicting Swansea to come out on the right side of this one once again, and maybe a little bit of pressure to lean back on the shoulders of Liam Manning. I'm going to go Swansea 2, Bristol City 1. So there's my predictions ahead of the Championship this weekend, guys. As always, leave yours in the comment section below with your thoughts on your team and what you think will happen in your team's fixture. And we'll be back after the weekend to, of course, round up all the games. It's going to be a quicker one next week because we've got to try and round up all these games and then chuck a prediction video in for the midweek games too. So there might be a very quick turnaround. I'll try and get both them videos done and get a prediction video out for the midweek games next week. It could be tough. I'll see what I can do. But until next time, have a good weekend. Enjoy the game wherever you are and whatever team you're watching. And I'll see you all next time.